Most people remember Dark Skies as just another early 2010s horror movie, shadowy figures, creaking doors and a couple of decent jump scares. However, upon recent reviewing, I've discovered that Dark Skies is so much more than that. It's a slow, suffocating domestic horror about what happens when something vast and cold and utterly indifferent decides to take an interest in your life, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. But it also taps into fears that are much more down to earth, an unnerving reminder of how little control we sometimes have over the people we love most. Welcome to WN Movie Talk, the channel where we pull films off the shelves, sometimes overlooked, sometimes misunderstood, and we take a deeper, retrospective look at what they may be doing beneath the surface. And today we are revisiting Dark Skies from 2013, a Blumhouse paranormal horror that's been quietly sitting in that early 2010s horror pile for years, filed under perfectly fine but rarely revisited. We'll be exploring how Dark Skies isn't simply an effective yet formulaic paranormal thriller, but how beneath the scares, the dread and the mystery, it's also a study of a family under pressure. How, as parents, we can't always protect our children, how authority and trust decay under the weight of external forces, and why this hauntingly unnerving movie definitely deserves a second look. So if you enjoy thoughtful film discussion, then hit that like button and subscribe. But for now, let's peer behind the closed curtains of American suburbia as we revisit Dark Skies. Let me know in the comments, have you seen Dark Skies? What did you make of it? Is it one of your favourite Blumhouse films? And if not, which one tops your list? Dark Skies was produced by Blumhouse Productions, the company founded around 2000 by producer Jason Blum, and which by 2013 had become one of the most influential names in modern horror. Blumhouse's model was simple but groundbreaking. Make films on very small budgets, give directors creative freedom, and let smart marketing and strong concepts do the rest. Dark Skies was an original story written and directed by Scott Stewart, a filmmaker who came into this project with some real genre chops. Before this, he directed Legion, a supernatural action horror about angels and the apocalypse that blended biblical myth with visceral tension, and Priest, a stylized post-apocalyptic action horror adaptation of a Korean comic. Dark Skies fit perfectly into the Blumhouse model. Made for about 3.5 million, it went on to gross around 27 million worldwide. Stewart had actually pitched the story as a found footage idea, but Blum's suggestion to shoot it in a more traditional cinematic style helped shape it into something more subtle and far more unsettling. The film slowly builds tension through atmosphere, character and creeping dread, turning the suburban home into a battleground of uncertainty. Dark Skies asked audiences to sit with ambiguity, to feel unease before anything overt happens, and to invest in the emotional reality of a family under threat. Stewart weaves the alien presence directly into the domestic life of the Barretts. Financial pressures, emotional strain and parental anxiety all heighten the sense of helplessness. The danger feels intensely personal, which makes the sci-fi elements all the more unsettling. Casting was crucial to selling that tension. Keri Russell anchors the film as Lacey Barrett, the mother who senses the danger before anyone else and must navigate both disbelief and escalating terror. Josh Hamiltonl plays her husband Daniel, giving a performance that balances denial, desperation and the slow erosion of authority within the household. The two boys, Dakota Goya as Jesse and Caden Rocket as Sam, bring genuine vulnerability that grounds the story and makes the family's stakes feel real. J.K. Simmons, in a relatively small role, adds weight and gravitas. His character provides the necessary exposition about the cosmic visitors, helping the audience to understand the stakes before the terrifying final act fully unfolds. The supporting cast and suburban setting are just as important as the main family. Neighbours, family, friends and local authorities all appear normal and familiar, which makes the intrusion of the strange and unknown even more isolating, personal and terrifying, especially as the Barretts find themselves under a constant microscope of observation and doubt. The everyday environment becomes a canvas for creeping dread. In this way, The film carefully builds its world. The ordinary becomes alien, the home turns untrustworthy, and the Barrett's sense of control gradually unravels. It's a cumulative dread that gnaws at our sense of suburban stability, and it's why Dark Skies rewards a second, closer look. But before we dive into the deeper themes of family dynamics, it's worth appreciating Dark Skies for what it does so well as a horror film. The eerie home invasion begins with a scene reminiscent of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another movie that deals with alien abduction. Like the scene in Spielberg's masterpiece where young Barry awakens at night to pursue unseen forces around his family home, in Dark Skies we follow Lacey, who, like Barry, comes across the spilt contents of a fridge at night. At first they assume it's animals or one of their children left the patio door open, but the incident nudges the financially struggling Barretts to resubscribe to their home security system, and from then on in the movie, the alarms become a signal of terror, a Spielbergian touch that amplifies dread through suggestion rather than spectacle. The tension escalates gradually, layering small but shocking events. Family photos disappear, birds lunge themselves into the family home in a moment of mass suicide, and Stewart borrows familiar genre techniques as Daniel, the protector of the family unit, has surveillance cameras positioned around the home, reminiscent of Paranormal Activity. But rather than clarifying the mystery, it only deepens it, teasing us with something abnormal happening, but hiding it behind the glitch of interference. Physical signs of the intrusion are subtle but unnerving, and for the most part we discover them rather than witness them. These small tangible disturbances heighten the psychological tension, making the unseen threat feel viscerally real. Stewart pairs these narrative choices with careful craft and design. The soundscape favours subtle textures and silence over loud, obvious scares, making every creak or whisper feel loaded with menace. Joseph Bishara's low, dissonant score simmers beneath the action, while deliberate, measured editing allows the dread to accumulate slowly. And then there are the greys, the film's true horror. The feeling that you're not being attacked so much as studied is what makes their presence so unsettling. It's a cold, impersonal violation of boundaries. The film's climax, while stepping away from the subtlety, remains restrained and effective. The aliens are never revealed in a blatant, in-your-face way. Stewart keeps them shrouded in terrifying mystery. The careful choreography, lighting and framing turn the end sequence into a masterclass of sustained, earned suspense. And by this point the slow burn has paid off. Every small scare, every disorientating moment has primed the audience to experience genuine, cumulative horror. As a genre piece, Dark Skies is a textbook example of how to sustain tension and deliver scares that resonate. In a moment we'll look at how the movie uses the alien abduction theme to highlight social reflection. But first, if you're enjoying this review and analysis so far, then please drop a comment, hit that like button and subscribe for more movie content. Small channels like mine really do rely on your support. Dark Skies draws from a long tradition of suburban horror. One scene in particular clearly nodding to Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist. When Lacey returns to the kitchen to find objects stacked and balanced in impossibly precise ways, we can't help but recall the iconic stacked chairs sequence from Hooper's film. But while Poltergeist leaned heavily in spectacle and far-fetched and impossible horror, Dark Skies deepens the tension with emotional stakes and relatable underlying themes, turning these supernatural disturbances into a reflection of the family's vulnerability and the erosion of control within their home. Watching the Barrett family struggle, we see how ordinary anxieties, financial stress, adolescent rebellion and the challenges of parenting amplify and mirror the external threat, making the supernatural danger and domestic pressures feel inseparable. When we first meet the Barretts, there are already fractures in the family dynamic. Daniel is unemployed, the traditional role of provider has been taken from him, and the family is trying to survive on Lacey's income alone. That financial uncertainty becomes an early, mundane version of the film's central horror, a loss of control and security that the alien invasion later mirrors. The film also cleverly directs both our attention and the parents' protective instincts toward the youngest child. His claims of seeing the Sandman become the emotional focus, drawing concern and vigilance towards him. and away from the true intentions of the visitors, which are only revealed in the film's final scenes. The parents and the audience pour all of their energy into protecting the youngest, while the oldest son drifts quietly into the background, seemingly untouched by the supernatural plot, and instead absorbed into his own teenage world. We see the oldest son falling under the influence of an older teenager, exposed to drugs and pornography. This becomes its own form of intrusion, an external force entering the family and shaping their child in ways that they can't fully see or control. The fear of losing the ability to protect them becomes a very human echo of the alien threat. Another subtle mirror of the alien activity is the way that the family becomes increasingly observed and monitored. The home security cameras, the police, the doctors, even neighbours and friends all begin watching. The Barretts are no longer just living, they are being watched, evaluated and quietly judged. And this echoes the aliens' behaviour almost exactly. And in both cases, the family becomes an object of scrutiny. So in summary, Dark Skies doesn't scream for your attention. It doesn't overwhelm you with spectacle. Instead, it quietly unsettles by turning the familiar into the unsafe. The science fiction becomes a lens, not the point, a way of making ordinary anxieties feel strange, external and terrifyingly out of reach. And that's why Dark Skies deserves more than its reputation as a perfectly fine early 2010 horror. It's a quiet, unsettling, emotionally grounded piece of genre storytelling, one that rewards patience, attention and a willingness to sit with discomfort rather than escape it. If you haven't seen it in a while, I would strongly encourage you to dig it out and watch it again, not just as a horror film, but as a story about family, fear and the slow erosion of certainty.